what has Dharma got to do with our routine, ongoing issues in our life?
Understanding Dharma is foundational to resolving any kind of dilemmas.
How does it really work in real situations?
Am I letting one role of mine interfere with another role of mine?
No, I really thought that we would always have more than two choices.
There are only two types of choices: Shreyas, Preyas.
So it all seems like a trap.
Not knowing the difference between these two essentially traps us all the time.
Then why we are not able to recognize these monkey traps?
Our desires and our impulses are tightly coupled with our decisions, and most often we end up unconsciously choosing. We need to try and listen to our deepest desire and not cave in to a desire that is ailing at the top of the mind.
My DMs are getting filled with mothers wanting to discuss and share with me their dilemmas. Dilemmas about how to balance work and life, childcare, financial pressures, and whatnot. So today, let's hear it from an expert, Mr. Chakravarthy, and he is going to definitely sort out the dilemmas that we are going through, because dilemmas are what decides our life. They are the major decision maker on what our life is going to be shaped like and what are really true dilemmas.
Well, that's very true. Let me first say that I'm excited to be back again. And what an interesting topic that we're going to discuss today: dilemmas and decisions. Life is a dance between dilemmas and decisions. Or should I say, it's a rock and roll dance between dilemmas and decisions, where we rock through challenges and we roll towards solutions. Mastering the art and science of this dance creates a harmony in life, and it shapes a beautiful, joyful journey.
Correct.
Dilemma is, in fact, like a battlefield where our values clash and our character gets defined. A dilemma typically is characterized by adversarial alternatives, where each alternative has its own set of emotional, ethical, practical implications. If I have to give you a profound illustration of a dilemma, it can perhaps be Arjuna's crisis on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. The Gita begins with Arjuna's crisis. It is possibly the mother of all dilemmas, where Arjuna is torn between two conflicting alternatives. On the one hand, he has to engage and fight in order to establish harmony, order in the society, fight for the sake of righteousness. On the other hand, engaging in the battle meant destruction, death of his kith and kin. Engaging in battle meant immense suffering. Classic case of a dilemma where there are several ethical, emotional, and practical implications. If you come back to today's world, I can give you an example where, imagine a judge has to adjudicate in a case where his own son is involved in a crime that could potentially lead to a capital punishment.
Okay.
What should the judge do? On the one hand, should he protect his son as a father? Or should he be impartial and adjudicate impartially? In the case of a judge, he has an option to recuse. But in life, we seldom get options to get out of making a choice. We are
Correct.
confronted with inner conflicts all the time.
Yes, and because we have our personal goals, then we have things to prove to society. So there are too many things that an individual is trying to make it up for. How do you differentiate between these dilemmas? That which one are true dilemmas out of these?
So essentially, the question is, what is the right thing to do?
Yes.
This is a big question indeed, right? In every dilemma when we face, we are always wondering, what is the right thing to do? What should I choose? What is the right thing to do? Now, I again go back to Arjuna's example,
Okay.
because Arjuna had this dilemma, and the best thing that he did was he asked the right question. The famous shloka from the Gita, karpanya dosho upahata swabhavaha prachami tvam dharma sammuda chetaha yachrehasyan nishchitam bruhitam me shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. Arjuna surrenders to Krishna and he asks, I am lost. I do not know what is the right thing to do. I do not know dharma. Therefore, instruct me, what is my dharma, he says.
What has dharma got to do with our routine and comparatively a small issues but ongoing issues in our life?
Well, understanding dharma is foundational to resolving any kind of dilemmas. What is dharma? Now, let's understand that dharma is a universal concept. Dharma can mean many things. Dharma can mean the set of laws that govern the universe. Dharma can mean code of conduct.
Yes.
Dharma can mean order.
Yes.
Dharma can mean duty. Dharma also stands for our essential nature, our intrinsic nature, our identity. Dharma also stands for a higher purpose. Now, to understand why dharma is so very important to resolve any dilemma, let's consider the case of a person who is driving on the road. Now, here is a driver who is driving on the road. Now, this driver belongs to a whole which is greater than himself, which in this case, it's the road transport system. Now, what is dharma in this case? Dharma are the set of rules that govern transport. All the laws, the rules that govern road transport is dharma. Now, what is dharma? Dharma is that which sustains one's nature. Dharma is that which makes one who one is. The driver who is driving on the road is a driver only when he abides by the rules of the road. Otherwise, the driver will become a corpse. He will also end up making many other corpses on the road. So, dharma is something which defines your identity, defines who you are, defines your essential nature, and therefore your duty.
So, dharma is like my guidebook, a book with guidelines that I need to follow, understand, and abide.
Exactly. Now, it's like the ordained duty. Now, how can we understand a little bit more on dharma? Let's go a little bit deeper.
Yes.
Now, I said we all belong to a whole which is greater than ourselves.
Correct.
Because we are living our lives in various wholes. I call this organic wholes, right? I belong to a whole called family.
Yes.
I belong to a whole called neighborhood, a community. I belong to a whole called a department, an
Yes.
organization. I belong to a whole called the organization itself. I belong to a whole called the society. I belong to a whole called the nation. I belong to a whole called the world. I belong to a whole called the creation. And eventually I belong to a whole called the creator. Right? Now, at every level, there is a duty with respect to the whole that I belong to. As a family man, I have a family dharma. As a member of a community, I have my community dharma. As a working professional, I have a departmental dharma. I have an organizational dharma. I have a societal dharma. I have a national dharma. I have a dharma as a citizen of the world. And I have the highest dharma as one belonging to the creation and the creator, which is loving and serving the creator and his creation. Now, every time when I fulfill my dharma, my objective is to realize my ultimate dharma. And as I perform every action, and when there is a dilemma, as long as I'm aware of my dharma and I align my dharma with a higher dharma, then I will be easily able to resolve the dilemma.
Okay, so to put it in a simple language, to be able to balance all these different dilemmas that I have, work life balance, childcare pressure, financial pressure, how to give me time and also do other roles, if I know my higher purpose and if I'm aligned towards my higher purpose, all these different disputes are going to be solved.
Yes. And how would you do that is the question,
The
right?
next question, exactly.
Now, Dharma also stands for your identity, which also determines your duty. Because if you're not clear of your identity, you are also not clear about your duty,
Correct.
right? Now, you may ask, what is the difficult part in understanding one's identity? But that's the fundamental problem today.
Okay, go on.
Let me explain this a little bit further. Why we are all confused about our
No, no, I totally
identities.
agree, but I want a solution to that.
The way we operate in this world, right? We all, the way we lead our lives, we relate to the world. So, in a way, we have relationships with people, objects, situations, and our identity is nothing but a sum of all these relationships. It is these relationships that end up defining our identity. And when we relate to the world, there are two factors here. There is the I, the one who is relating, and there is the object with whom or with whom I'm relating to. When you look at these two factors, one factor we can easily understand is constantly changing. The object, the person, the situation that I relate to is constantly changing all the time. This we are clear about.
Correct.
What we are not clear about is, am I, the one who is relating to this world, am I the same? Am I subject to change? What is happening to me?
Okay, so all these objects and situations are built in such a nature that they're supposed to be constantly changing.
Right.
And the conflict is maybe because we're trying to deal with ever changing objects and situations.
The conflict is actually not out there, it is
It's
out
out
here.
within.
Because the I who is relating to the world is also changing, but if we really observe, it is partially changing. Let me give an example.
Okay.
I, as a father, am relating to my son. And the next moment, I, as a son, am relating to my father. Now, the
Okay.
object here has changed, very clear. Now, the subject, which is I am still the same I, but on the first occasion, I was the father relating to my son.
Yes.
On the second occasion, I am the son relating to my father. Therefore, even the I is also changing, but this is where we get confused. What is changing here? What is changing here is the role that I play.
And the expectation that come along with it are different. So are you going to now tell me that the higher purpose has to be the constant?
So, the higher purpose again is once again related to how you discover your own identity as a role player and not the role. The confusion is, am I the role or am I the role player? Because whether we like it or not, roles come to us. You know, when I take birth, the father says a son is born.
Yes.
The brother says a brother is
Brother is
born.
born.
You know, and a neighbor says a neighbor is born. So roles come to us, and as we relate to the world, keep relating to the world, we start playing several roles. The fundamental challenge for us is to recognize that I, the role player, I, the person playing the roles, is distinct and different from all the roles that I
That I
play.
played. Yeah. So, in every given situation, at every given day, I need to know that these are the roles that I'm playing, and then I keep switching to different roles. And I am me, and these are just the different roles that I'm playing. So, the minute I finish playing this role, I should be able to completely disconnect from that. Yeah, okay, fine. So that is the solution to all the dilemmas we have. But how do we practice that? How does it really work in real situations?
We need to first recognize that I'm not my role. The fundamental problem is the role and the person playing the role gets merged into one.
Correct.
And the problems of the role becomes the problems of the person.
Correct.
And the problems of one role adversely impact the performance of another role. So let me give an example. Here is a person who had a fight with his wife at home. Happens, right? All the time. And he walks out, shuts the door with a bang. Now, he's walked out of the house, but the husband role is still there. He walks into the lift. A poor neighbor walks into the lift. He is not smiling. He's still seething with anger. The husband role is still there. The neighbor role is not taken over yet. He walks into his office. Poor secretary says good morning, and he vents his frustration by shouting at her. The hangover of the husband's role still is there.
Correct. Yeah.
As long as I do not recognize that I and my role are so very different, and every role has its own script. I should not be mixing the scripts of one role with the other. Therefore, one of the key ways to handle any dilemma is to first recognize, am I mixing my roles? Am I letting one role of mine interfere with another role of mine? The moment I become aware that I, the person, the role player, has several roles to play, and I need to play each role dutifully to the script that is given, then I can look at the dilemma impartially, and then I can make a right decision.
Yeah. But then there are some situations where within one situation you're playing two different roles. Say a mother is wanting to give the best of education or an activity development for a child. At the same time, she's facing financial pressures. So she's expected to play two different roles at one given time, a mother and uh, money, like somebody who has to earn money from work and balance the expenses. So in one situation she's doing two roles over here. So how does one deal in such a scenario? Also, I want to know if every situation has choices to make.
Right. So let me address the first part of the question. Right. Yes. At any given point in time, we are confronted with multiple roles because we are wearing multiple hats. But we also must recognize that at any given time, we are playing one role. We are playing one role at a time. We could be switching roles from one moment to the other, but at a given point in time, we are playing the role of the mother. And then the next moment, we may be playing the role of a breadwinner of the family. These two roles cannot be mixed at the same time. Every role has its script. Every role has its duty. This is what Krishna calls in the Gita Swadharma. Swadharma is essentially a script given per role. You cannot let that script be corrupted by the script of another role. So, when you are playing the role of a mother, you remain a mother and you give your 100% to that role. And then, when you switch the role and you play the role of a breadwinner as a professional who has to earn money, at the time, again stick to that role 100%. At any given point in time, be faithful to the role. Swadharma is being faithful to the ordained role at any given point in time. This is what Arjuna's dilemma was, right? He was a warrior on the battlefield, but suddenly he started thinking about his emotional attachments to his relatives who happened to be on the other side. But once the war begins, you have to be a warrior. You cannot be thinking about anything else. You can possibly be entertaining other roles after you complete the duty that you have to perform for a particular role at a particular point in time. This is what Krishna in the Gita says, Swadharmam apichaveksha navikampitum dharmadhi yuddhat shreyonyat kshatriyasya na vidyate. Arjuna is told, on the battlefield, be a warrior. Don't be, a loving relative. When you are at home, you can perform the role of a relative. But on the battlefield, you have to perform the role of a warrior. So therefore, recognizing the script for that particular role is so very important. And within the role, yes, you have choices to make. So this is the second part of your question. The choices. Life is a series of dilemmas only because we are always confronted with confusing choices, conflicting choices.
Yes.
I call this as choice, a dilemma which is at the heart nothing but two choices conflicting with each other all the time.
Correct.
There are broadly only two types of choices.
Okay.
In everything that we do, you may be surprised. Are you?
No, I really thought that we would always have more than two choices because we live in a world of abundance. Our problems are abundant. Our solutions, I thought, were abundant too. And so our choices are also so many, and that's why so much of confusion.
Well, it appears that there are too many choices. But when you really look through those choices, fundamentally, there are only two choices. Fundamentally, every dilemma, at the heart of every dilemma, are two types of choices.
Okay.
This is what the Kathopanishad beautifully describes.
Right.
The concept of Shreyas versus Preyas. There is a very profound shloka which says, Shreyascha preyascha manushyametaha tau samparitya vivinakti dhiraha shreyo hi dhiro bhi preyaso vrinite preyo mando yogakshemad vrinite. There are only two types of choices, Shreyas, Preyas. A wise man, the Upanishad says, always chooses Shreyas over Preyas. Now, what is Shreyas and what is Preyas? On the one hand, Shreyas is what is truly good. Preyas is what is seemingly pleasant.
Okay.
Shreyas is long-term gain. Preyas is short-term want. Shreyas is essentially yielding that which yields long-term benefit. Preyas, that which offers instant gratification. When we look at any dilemma, the two choices that are presented to us, basically they fall in these two categories. One category, which is Preyas, is that which is seemingly pleasant. Simple things, waking up in the morning, right? I set the alarm. Now, when the alarm rings, whoever has discovered the alarm has also discovered the snooze button, right? So there is that temptation to hit the snooze, to get that extra 10 minutes sleep, instant gratification, seemingly pleasant. That's Preyas. Versus disciplining ourselves, long term good may not be, short term, possibly not so good. So this conflict of what is seemingly pleasant and what is truly good, conflict between shreyas and prayas, is at the heart of every dilemma that we face. And it is about having that necessary discriminatory faculty to look at the two choices and say, what is truly good and what is seemingly pleasant? That determines right decisions.
My higher purpose. Okay, so I understand that we are always given two choices only, but because we are playing different roles, and we don't even know sometimes which role we are playing currently. So it all seems like a trap. How to differentiate the roles and how to shortlist to these two choices only that you mentioned.
True. It all seems like a trap, not just any trap, but a monkey trap. Let me tell you a story of the
Yes.
monkey trap. It seems there was this monkey, a hungry monkey. This hungry monkey was searching for food, and then it walks into a room, and then there is this enticing aroma of sweet rice wafting through the air. The monkey now knows that it has found some food. The only problem was that this pot of sweet rice was not in that room, it was in an adjacent room. There's a wall in between,
Okay.
and there is a small hole in the wall through which this enticing aroma is wafting through. Now, the monkey now realizes that it can access the pot through the hole. So, what does it do? It's a hungry monkey, jumps, and then it pushes its arm through the hole. And then it is able to catch hold of the pot and then take a fistful of sweet rice. The problem was that the hole was big enough to let its arm pass through, but it was not big enough for a fist to come back again. So it was not able to extricate itself. Now, it has its fist full of rice. The monkey cannot let go because it's hungry. It's a hungry monkey, and it cannot let go of the food. At the same time, it gets trapped. It cannot extricate itself. It's in a trap. Short-term want versus long-term gain. Short-term want, feed itself because it's hungry. Long-term gain, freedom. Therefore, not knowing what to do, it gets trapped. And that's popularly called the monkey trap. All of us have our monkey traps. Every dilemma is like a monkey trap. Not knowing the difference between these two essentially traps us all the time. So therefore, to make the right choice, we need to understand the difference between what I called the Shreyas and Prayas.
Then why we are not able to recognize these monkey traps?
That's a good question. The reason why we don't recognize these monkey traps is because we don't normally recognize that we are making decisions. We all think we keep taking decisions from time to time, but we don't realize that we are taking decisions all the time. We are infinite choice makers, no doubt, but we are also most of the time unconscious choice makers, which means over the course of our life and living, we become bundles of conditioned reflexes which can be triggered into predictable outcomes of behavior, which means I keep making decisions unconsciously.
Okay.
I keep choosing unconsciously all the time. Most of our choices, most of our decisions are unconscious in nature. Now, when a cat sees a mouse, obviously the cat is not going to deliberate whether I should pounce on it or not. It will automatically pounce on it. Now, this is the way the animals are. They are programmed. Their desire and their decision are locked, tightly coupled. Only we humans have this ability to deliberate and make choices. But unfortunately, even in our case, our desires and our impulses are tightly coupled with our decisions, and most often we end up unconsciously choosing. We are all cats pouncing on our rats all the time, not knowing that we are actually making decisions all the time, but unconsciously. This is possibly one of the causes for wrong decisions that we keep taking and then regretting later in life.
So you're trying to say that most of the decisions that we are making are based on desires, our own desires, and not situations or what is required to out of the situation.
Exactly, because most often our desires determine our decisions. Our desires trigger unconscious decisions. Whereas to take right decisions, we should be aware of the various desires, and we should be able to choose our desires and not the other way around. Unfortunately, like a cat pouncing on a rat, we end up unconsciously pouncing on our rats and making unconscious choices, because this tight interlock, this tight coupling of our desire and decisions make us go through life as programmed machines all the time.
So I always thought it's a decision that we need to make, and then we choose a desired option. So desire, I thought, always came after decision. I thought that was the right way to do. But now I'm understanding that it's our desires that are actually unconsciously making us take those decisions. How does this go hand in hand? And how do we kind of know the difference between two?
So, first step is to realize that we make our choices unconsciously. We
Correct.
need to first acknowledge that we are unconsciously making decisions. And we also need to realize that choice making is a unique faculty, and we need to exercise this faculty of choice making. If we look at all the progress that humankind made, every step that humankind made for and the progress that ensued is exactly because of this capability to trade off between short term want and long term gain. Trade off our loudest desire for our deepest desire. What is the difference? When we look at our mind, there are layers and layers of desires. And right at the top are our loudest desires, yelling at us. And they are so loud that we have no option but to just succumb to them. Typically, these are desires for bodily gratification, instant gratification. But when we go deep inside us, we have deep desires, our longing for fulfillment, longing for meaning in life, longing to find the purpose of life, longing to become complete. This deep desire often gets completely lost, and catering to our loudest desires, we end up making unconscious choices. So, therefore, every time when there is a dilemma, we need to try and listen to our deepest desire and not cave in to a desire that is ailing at the top of the mind. And when we do that, we then are ready to trade off a short term want for long term gain. Newton became Newton only because he was able to discriminate this. He looked at the apple falling from a tree, and then right then and there was a choice. There was a trade off, choosing long term gain versus short term want. Imagine if instead of Newton, there was a monkey sitting there. It would have just picked up the apple, happily walked away eating it. But there was a trade off there between immediate gratification and long term gain of understanding reality. So every time when we are presented with conflicting choices, we need to be aware that we have to trade off our loudest desire for our deepest desire. And then make the choice consciously. That's when we will make right decisions.
Now that we know how the cycle of decisions are taken, how our desires are playing roles into those decision making, and the fact that because we did not have clarity of these different roles and our higher purpose, all these small situations lead to big stress levels. But then there are always going to be situations where we might not be prepared to go through this series of steps that you shared with us. It could be a simple situation like I'm confused between whether I should spend this time just going through something on Instagram and watching some latest trends and reels, or I should utilize this time and do read a book, because I'm so tired at the end of a day. I'm now in a situation where I don't know what is right for me. I'm just too tired. My brain's fried. And I don't want to go through the series of steps that you explained. I'm not in mental capacity right now. How do I program my mind that I do not fall into such situations where I have to make decisions, but automatically my mind now can actually look at the higher purpose and look at the shreyas and prayas and decide.
Let me make it very simple, right? So, essentially, every time you have to make a choice, howsoever trivial or howsoever profound, so the situation may be, just ask two questions. Just two questions,
Okay.
right? Question number one: what is going to be the consequence of this choice?
Okay.
Ask this question to yourself. Second question: ask yourself, will this choice bring me happiness? And will this bring happiness for people around me? Now, answers to both these questions will determine the decision that you're going to take. Every time you ask these two questions, be assured that you will not regret making wrong choices.
Perfect. So here I understand. The confusions are never there as long as I'm very clear of which role I need to play right now. Once I choose my role, once I know the role, as long as I know that there are honestly just two choices, I just need to know which choice I want to make. Do I want a long term goal or I want an instant gratification? And once I know my higher purpose, I'll always know which out of these two choices to make. And I should always prioritize my long term goal over short results and pleasures, and situations are sorted.
Yes, then life becomes, as I said, a rock and roll dance, right? And the journey of life becomes so very beautiful and joyful because you are making conscious, intelligent choices that's going to bring happiness not only to you, but all the people around you.
So be a witness to the role you are playing and not just get into that role. The role is a role, not you entirely.
Yes.
So a session with you today completely tells me that a lot of these situations are big in our head, but as long as we have clarity, they are something we can easily deal with. So, thank you so much for such clarity of decisions and desires and the roles we play, and the fact that we need to focus on our higher purpose always. Thank
It's my
you.
pleasure.
Thank you.